Welcome to our author visit with Angela Enos. I'm Karen Buhite. I'm with the Book Friends Book Club in Bradford. Most of our members are here tonight, and we welcome the other book clubs from the area and other people here. Before we start our main event with Angela, I want to thank Janelle Nolan and the members of the staff from the Bradford Area Library for their help in making this possible. We've been talking about this for a few months, and Janelle emailed me today. She's like, today's the day. So before we get started, there's always a lot of exciting things going on at this library, and I want to have Janelle come up to talk about a few of those things, and then we'll go back to the program.
Thank you. I love to talk, especially when I have a captive audience. So this is your infomercial. I have to take advantage of this. So I am Janelle Nolan. I'm in charge of the adult programming, our marketing, and our website. And it's so nice to look out and see familiar faces, but it's even nicer to see some new faces. And I'm hoping this isn't the only time I'll see you. I want you to come back. We are about to kick off our summer reading program. I believe the kickoff date is June 9th, and I'm working on our events calendar online, and I'm working on our big newsletter, and that's going to be going out pretty soon. And oftentimes people, when they think of libraries, they think of little kid programs. We are so much more than that, okay? We do have a lot of little kid programs, but we also have teen programs and we have adult programs. So please visit our website, bradfordlibrary.org, and even better, sign up for our newsletter, okay? Some of our programs do require registration, and it's our subscribers that get first dibs. So that's my little, hook. So please sign up, register for things, bring all of your family members, and that's it. Okay, so please visit our website, bradfordlibrary.org. Thank you.
And I have to ask you, trivia nights? Are we doing trivia this summer, or do you take a break in the summer?
I don't ever take a break.
Oh, okay.
So yes, we do have
How
trivia.
many people here have been to the trivia nights? More of you need to be there. Julio, you haven't been to a trivia night?
No.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Thank
And you can find out about that on the Facebook and the newsletter. So
Yes.
Think about getting a team together. It's really a lot of fun. And Janelle, she can outdo Vanna White. She is a great hostess for trivia night. It's a lot of fun. So now for the main reason that everybody's here tonight, I want to talk about our author, Angela Enos. Angela has more than 9 years experience as an author and has written 3 books. She is a retired legal assistant, youth pastor, and is a certified speaker with the John Maxwell team. Angela likes to say that her years as a youth pastor attempting to keep a room full of teenagers on the edge of their seat, or at least in their seats, is what taught her to be creative and witty as a speaker and a writer. Her latest novel, Under the Roof, which I think a lot of you have read, has been met with overwhelming praise. As one reader who loved the book said of the book, "It is so much fun to read. Loved all the characters, and I want to move to this neighborhood." I think we're going to learn a little bit more about Thunderbird Lane tonight. In her pursuit of writing page turners, Angela spends a great deal of time studying the craft of writing. She's passionate about sharing her love of writing with young and old in a fun and engaging fashion. And I can attest to her dedication to writing because I visited with her this winter in Florida, and she was always up at the crack of dawn at her computer writing well before I even thought about getting out of bed. So she is dedicated. Angela resides near Harrisburg with her husband, John. John grew up in Bradford. I don't know if any of you knew John or may have gone to school with him. I think he's going to join us later. Between the two of them, they have 5 children and 5 grandchildren. When Angela is not behind the computer, she's at the gym, golfing, cooking, and most importantly, spending time with those loving family members and her friends. I'm honored to be one of those friends, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you my friend Angie, the author Angela Enos.
Yes, I go by Angie, so Angela sounds a little funny, so that's why Karen said my friend Angie. She couldn't say friend and Angela in the same sentence. When you spoke to now about the children programs, it just reminded me of a quick story. I have 4 children, and they were born in 3.5 years. So when I had a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old, I had twins. And I then became an at-home mother, and I took them to all the library programs. We lived in a very small rural town, population 2,000, had a tiny little library, and we had a lady, Vicki, who did all the children's programs. So I can specifically remember this day. My middle son was 4, so that means the twins were 2. And my middle son was 4, and my daughter was 6. Now, when I took these 4 children to the grocery store, I did not want to spank them and yell at them. I didn't even do that at home, but if you've ever seen a mother in the grocery store. So what I would do is I would just pinch them right behind their ear, and I would get down and I would whisper into their ear what was going to happen to them. So we were at the program at the library, and Vicki was reading a book on manners and how to be a good friend. And she was saying, oh, we don't hit our friends, we're kind to our friends, we don't pinch our friends. And my 4-year-old raises his hand, and Vicki says, yes, Clark. And he says, my mommy pinches us all the time. And I said, I have no idea what this child is talking about. So that's my memory of the children's programs at the library. My son opened my roof and got under my roof in front of everybody. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Janelle, for having me. Thank you so much. And it has been they've been planning this for many months. I do want to thank Karen because she initiated it, got everything going, and she is housing my husband and myself as well. Thank you. And the Book Friends Book Club, that's almost a tongue twister. Thank you so much for the cookies, the people that were here today setting up, and the spread back there. We should have invited everybody here afterwards. My husband's coming for cookies. Carol's husband is coming for cookies. So, thank you so much for being so inviting. I went to dinner with several of you. I feel like I want to be a member of your book club down. So you're all very kind, and I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm going to assume that most of you have read the book. Yes? No? Okay, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I don't think I'm going to. So I'll be mindful of that as I speak. Under the Roof the idea was given to me by a woman in my golf league. We have 9 holers in the golf league and 18 holers. I was an 18 holer, and when I became president, I really didn't know much about the 9 holers. So there was a woman named Carol, and if you've read the book is dedicated to her. She was a 9-holer, she is a 9-holer, and I would call her every week. What do the 9-holers think about this? Are they okay with this? Because she was my voice for the 9-holers. And we got to be good friends, and we'd talk, and one day we were talking about writing, and I told her about the books I had written, and at that point I had only written nonfiction, and she said, well, if I ever wrote a book, I'd call it Under the Roof. And it would be about how you think you know people. You might even give them nicknames, and then when you get under their roof, there's something that you don't expect. And we hung up the phone. Well, I couldn't get this idea out of my mind. Next thing you know, I was creating characters, and I was writing a plot in my mind. So about 3 weeks later, I called her. I said, Carol, do you remember talking about that book? Would you like to write it with me? I can't get it out of my mind. I think I have some really good ideas. And her response was, Lord, no, I don't want to write a book. So I said, do you mind if I write that book? So I took her idea, and we have Under the Roof around the room here. It is about meeting people, and when you meet them, you might give them a nickname. Has anybody ever done that? Would anybody like to share a nickname? They're not usually very flattering, are they? Memorable. For those of you, memorable. Yeah, well, that's why we create them, so we can remember the person. For those of you that have read the book, and a few of you have said something to me tonight, that you want to come live on Thunderbird Lane. Thunderbird Lane is the neighborhood where Under the Roof takes place. The logistics of it are designed after my actual neighborhood, which is a circle. And there, if you haven't read the book, there's a map at the beginning of the book, which I thought would be advantageous for the reader to really see it, because in my mind, when I was writing it, I could see it, and I could see where the houses were laid out. So my neighbors think that this book is actually about them and the guy that lives in Richard Gere's house. And I keep telling him, you're not Richard. The meth house people have not spoken to me since. No, just kidding. But it took me a long time to convince my neighborhood that the people in my neighborhood were not the inspiration for this book, and I'm going to explain to you in a little bit about how I came up with the characters and how I developed the characters in my writing. I wanted to write the book with an air of mystery, but I also wanted to couple lifelong lessons along with that. The background as a pastor and a teacher, I felt that even though it was a fiction book, I wanted to create something that had meaning, but I do like to have a lot of fun and make people laugh. So I wanted to be enjoyable, I wanted you to laugh, perhaps a tear here and there, but in between, all of a sudden you had an aha moment here and there where you said, oh, maybe I should think about that a little more. And that was my intention. Now, when I create a character, when any writer creates a character, there are 4 ways we come up with characters. Number 1, yourself. So when I created the protagonist, which is the main character of the book, she is created after me. Why? Because I know me very well, and I didn't have to do any research. When I created her husband, it was created after my husband as well. I know him. In the book, and this isn't a huge spoiler, in the book, the protagonist is a legal assistant. I was a legal assistant. As I said at dinner, if I would have made her an airline stewardess or a flight attendant would be politically correct. I don't know anything about that job, so I would have had to do a ton of research. So 2 of the characters in the book are created after myself, my husband. The second way you can create a character is you find somebody in your past that you know. 2 of the characters in the book are from my past, people that I know. So many of the characters in the book are based on real people. If you read the book, did you get that impression? Did you think these were real people? Did you think Lily was a real person? Anybody? Raise your hand if you thought she was a real person.
You mean real out of your life, or?
Yeah, like her story is an actual real person, real story.
Well, I knew you wrote it, so no, but she seemed like somebody that I would come across.
But what I found, I can't say, that's all I'll say on that. What I found, also, anybody else you thought might be a real person? The cat lady. The cat lady is based on the 3rd person, the 3rd way that we find a character, and that's somebody who you say, may I borrow your story? That is how I get a lot of my characters. When I see somebody interesting, there's a lady at McDonald's that I keep going and I just feel like she has a story. There's a man that I see at our grocery store, and they gave him the nickname, the Nutty Professor. Again, nicknames are not usually flattering. He intrigues me. So one day I went up to him and I handed him a card and I introduced myself and I said, I write fiction books, but I like to base my characters on actual people. I bet you have a story. And he said, yes, I do. So I have 2 meetings set up to interview him. Wow. He comes to the grocery store very disheveled. Lightly, I'm saying, very disheveled. He takes his blood pressure, then he sits at the pharmacy for about half an hour, and then he'll take a walker and he'll go down 2 aisles, buy 2 things, and leave. Every day, from 9:30 to 10:30. And everybody wants to know his story. We found out that he was a professor at the local college, a math professor. So now we're all even more intrigued. So when I get home, I get to interview him and find out his story, and I'm hoping to use him as a character in one of my upcoming books. That's how I like to find my characters, because characters have to be believable, compelling people that the reader likes. And there's one emotion that a writer should create with a character in the reader. The one emotion that I'm trying to create within you as you're reading a book. What do you think that might be? Empathy. How did you guess that? Most people get it wrong, and then I did a book club last week when they said empathy. That was the first time anybody ever said that. So, woo, Bradford. Empathy. You have to buy into these people and care about these people, right? Have you ever read a book and you don't really care about the character? Yes, and I feel like I'm very picky about that, but twice this year so far, I'm halfway through a book, I don't care anymore. I don't care if she's sick, I don't care if she gets well, I don't care if her husband leaves her, I just don't care anymore. So the way that I can get the reader to care is to create empathy, and the best way I know is to get real characters that when I met them and I heard their story, I had empathy for them, and then I share their stories with you. I went to the grocery store about 2 years ago. We moved 3 years ago, so this was a new grocery store for me. And in the parking lot was the guy putting the carts back, and he was talking like he was on the phone. And I thought, oh, he's on the phone. So every time I went to the grocery store, I noticed this cart guy talking. And I soon realized he didn't have earbuds in. So being nosy about people and always inquiring, I started to inquire some of the people at the grocery store. And I found out that he is neurodivergent, which is the words they would use, that he is actually scripting and talking to himself, that he was bipolar and autistic and schizophrenic. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more. I found out his name, and I started to study. And some people, you're nodding your head because I know some people understand this disability. I started to study it more and more, and I thought, how does the world see him? How do the people at the grocery store see him? And what I want to create in my writing is fun and laughs, but also a deeper understanding and appreciation for others. So I found a girl who had a brother who was autistic and bipolar and schizophrenic. And I arranged a phone call with her because I was in Florida at the time. We lived in Florida 2 months out of the year. I arranged a phone call and I got to know this girl. So I started to ask her questions to create this character. And I, first of all, talked about the language. What would you call him? You would call him socially divergent, neurodivergent. And I said, what is it called that he's doing? He's scripting. It's called echolalial scripting. So he's actually doing it to calm himself because they're socially divergent. And he's nervous when he's at work. He's nervous around people. He's nervous somebody might approach him. So they will script about things that they've watched on TV. He scripts a lot of movies. You'll hear him saying actors' names. And the girl that I interviewed, her brother scripts on a particular video game. So when he gets nervous, to calm themselves, they will just talk. You've seen people like this, correct? So I learned the guy's name, and I asked her, if I interrupt him when he's talking, if I talk to him, will he think I'm interrupting him? And she said no. So I learned his name's Wilson, and I've become friends with Wilson at the grocery store. The first time I met Wilson, I went up to him and I said, hi Wilson, my name's Angie, how are you? And he said, hi, I'm autistic and bipolar. And it hit me, what if the first time we introduced ourselves, we opened the roof right up and said, hi, I'm Angie. I'm type A personality. You wouldn't have known that, right? And then you start to say, I judge people, I drink too much, or what if when we met people right away, we said our faults. Can you imagine what that would be like? And here's Wilson. And I've seen people make fun of him at the grocery store, but here's Wilson who's working. First of all, I'm thinking, how did he get the job? Did a family member come in? I think he's a foster child. I haven't figured all that out. I'm trying to meet his actual parents. But I met this girl, Sarah, whose brother has the same condition. And I talked to her and I learned the language and I've been studying and reading books. So I said, how does this affect your family life? What's your mother like? And she said, my mother worries a lot and she's an alcoholic. This affects the whole family. This is another storm we weren't supposed to have. We talked about her mother. I said, what's it like for your father? And she said, he's angry all the time. He's a functioning alcoholic. He typically will lose a job because he's angry, and sooner or later he'll get angry at work and lose his job. We were on the phone about 45 minutes, and I said, "What about you, Sarah? What's this like for you?" And I could hear her start to cry. And she said, "I'm alone. I'm the invisible child. I can't cause any problems because there's enough problems in this household." And she spilled her heart to me. This is the character that I want to create. And I put Sarah in the sequel. And when I was writing this scene where she reveals these things, and this is a spoiler for the sequel, I was writing this scene, and as a writer, I was trying to recreate what I felt that day, and I was struggling. And I took some time off and thought about it, and I thought, I'm going to cut and paste our conversation, the notes from our conversation, right into the book. And that's what I did. I took the notes from that conversation, put it right in the book, and then wrote around that, and it came out beautifully. But I was able to convey to a reader empathy and understanding. And then there's plenty of laughs around that because Fern's still there. Those are the characters that I like to create. So I have spent 3 months interviewing people and doing research and plotting, and then I began writing the sequel. I did the same thing with Under the Roof, spent several months. I get up every morning between 4:30 and 5, and I write until 7 a.m., and I do go to bed at 8:30. Somebody asks me, do you nap? No, but I go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm very tired. I used to, if you've ever tried to write a book, I used to keep a log of how many words per day I wrote, and I had to write 1,000 words a day. So that would motivate me, but I don't have to do that anymore. I love it so much, I don't keep track of the words. So I want to open it up for questions. If you have any other questions about the writing, the characters, I do have a little blurb from the sequel. Since most of you had read it, I didn't want to do a reading from the book, but I have a reading from the sequel. And I'll take questions, and then I have a 5-minute commercial.
What are the other 2 books you wrote? Because I couldn't find your other books.
Correct. So the first book I wrote was a nonfiction book. It's on weight loss. And it's how to eat healthy as a lifestyle and be healthy and lean without dieting. I brought some with me tonight to give away for free. I hated the cover. It was the first book I wrote. I had no idea what I was doing. I used a hybrid publisher for that, and they created the cover. I didn't know what I was doing. So I've reread that book, and I think all the information in that book is wonderful. I have a couple free copies tonight. I'd like to recreate the cover, rename it, and make it look better. So I pulled that off of Amazon. The second book I wrote was on the Valley of Sickness and Disease, and it was on chronic illness and how to get through chronic illness. And I believed in that book so much that I wanted a publisher. Less than 1% of the books today, the people have a publisher. The first thing you need is 10,000 followers on Facebook or Instagram. I worked for 2 years to try to build a platform so I could get a literary agent, not even a publisher, just a literary agent to look at my work, but I had to have a huge following to do so. So that's how social media has made it so difficult for us to publish through an actual publisher. The second book, I never found a publisher, and I just laid it down. But anyway, I had a whole YouTube channel and did videography and teachings. I had a blog. I did everything known to man. I even taught how to build an author platform to emerging authors. But it's, unless Oprah Winfrey notices you, you're not going to get a publisher. So those 2 books are out. One that was never published. I would like to bring that now back as a fiction book. My husband told me the whole time I was writing it that it should be a fiction book, and he's not here yet. So I can say that maybe he was right. As a non-fiction book, people didn't buy it, even though to me it was a true story. People didn't buy it. So if I wrote it as, I kept telling him it's not fiction, but I think if I rewrite it as a fiction book, then I could get away with it. So I'm hoping to do that someday.
You have to talk about the cat lady, because you asked us, you know, if the characters were believable, and some of that stuff that she does in the book, like, to me was like really outrageous, and then when you told me that it was based on reality. So can you talk a little bit about, and I believe she is one of your neighbors though, right?
She's my friend.
Oh,
She lives
okay.
in a development.
Okay.
She sat down with me one day after lunch and she said, someday you should write a book about my life. I said, well, you just said that to the wrong person. So I interviewed her, and she is the cat lady. We have become very good friends, and a lot of times she'll travel with me to sign books because everybody loves the cat lady. She's become very, what's the word I want? She has ownership of Fern now, because in the sequel she wants to know everything about Fern. And I keep saying, you need to trust me with Fern, because I used your story. So she has 4 cats, but she is the cat lady. She has the catio, all the things in the book, cat TV. They have cameras in every room of their house. We were just golfing with them on Sunday, and she said, I have to check on the boys, and she's checking every camera in her house. I went up to her and I said, do you know what they're saying right now? I'm so glad those adults aren't at home and we have the house to ourselves. And here you are worrying about them. My husband says if he ever is reincarnated and he comes back as a cat, he wants to live at her house, because these cats have the best life. There's one part of the cat lady's story that I made up. So when we go, I didn't want to give a spoiler, but when we go to book signings, people say, is that all true about you? And she'll say, yeah. And about the 3rd book signing, somebody came up and said, is this true? And she said, oh, no, Angie made that up. So there is one part that is not true. So not to give a spoiler, come up and ask me afterwards what the one part of the cat lady that is not true, but everything else is true. And her story and the people that she lost is true. But I can't give a spoiler about, there is actually a book written about one of her stories. I can't share it as a spoiler though, you can come up and ask.
When's your sequel coming out?
October. I am writing the last chapter. And I need to finish that. And then I will edit it for about a month, and then I will have my beta readers get it the middle of June, and they'll have it June and into July, and I have my editor booked for August. And then I'm away in September, it'll come out in October. Does everybody know what a beta reader is?
Yes, I do.
Have you been a beta reader?
Yeah.
You've been one.
Yeah, Cheryl was a teenager. Is that
Really?
better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I work for a writer. Well, he writes. He's 98, and he's still writing. He's got his last book, but he's having a hard time finding somebody to publish it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and he still wants to add some more. I mean, he's got the cover, and they did the cover and everything, but yeah, he's still working on it. So
I have a lot of hard time keeping beta readers because they read it before anybody's edited it but me, and they're reading for content. I like to say, as an author, it's hard for me to read the label because I'm standing inside the bottle. I have become so connected with this story, I can see it all before I write it unfolding in front of me, but then you as a reader may have a disconnect. Like chapter 3, I got lost. I don't even know what you were talking about, but I saw it, but I didn't relay it. So beta readers come in at the very beginning, before it's edited by anybody, and then they have a terrible time because they have to see all the mistakes, and they can't read over that just to stick with the content.
Yeah.
Have you had that?
Yeah.
So I lose beta readers, and I get specific beta readers. Under the Roof has a nun in it, so one of my beta readers was a nun. I had a psychologist read it because of some of the things in the book, because I don't want the reader to read it and say, well, this isn't right. So I always have specific beta readers read it. There are many rules for writing a sequel. You can't repeat things from the first story. You can't give all that backstory, but I'm using some of the same characters, so I will have a beta reader for the sequel that never read the first book. I want to know that if you're only reading the sequel, it's understandable to you. So, beta readers are tough.
How do you find beta readers?
I typically search specific people out for a specific reason. There's an organization actually helping me with this. I point over there like that's a sequel. The sequel, because there are specific characters, like the one I mentioned, that I want people who know those situations very well to make sure I'm specific, but also just have casual beta readers that read it, that are bookworms. I seek out bookworms would be a better answer. People that read all the time that know books.
Carol, that's you.
Yeah, I know.
What Carol's like.
Well, I'm only on 60 books this year, right, so far. Yeah. Only, yeah. I got a library at my house, so big one. I need to donate some books.
Some of the characters, the fourth way, I didn't tell you one more thing, the fourth way we get characters is we make them up completely out of our imagination. One of my characters was completely made up.
Are you going to tell us which
I
one?
can't give spoilers. You can answer.
And Under the Roof, one is completely made up.
Richard Gere.
What? Richard Gere exists?
No, it's the,
He sounds too good to be true.
One of my beta readers called me after his confession, and I'm not giving spoilers. She said, Hattie is just being so mean to Richard right now. I just think she's being way too mean. He was so nice to her. I said, thank you. You're invested in my characters. Now keep reading. Because I'm not changing it.
So Richard Gere was not made up. He was based.
No.
Okay.
I think I
No,
know.
I won't give a spoiler.
I know,
I'll tell
I
you.
think I know who it
I'll
is.
tell you.
You think so?
Yeah.
No, I'm not denying Richard Gere or confirming it. Would you like, do we have time for a sneak peek or just a commercial?
Yeah.
This is from the sequel. So Under the Roof ends about the end of summer. If you remember, Aggie moved in the spring, so the sequel starts on her 1-year anniversary at Thunderbird Lane. So it's the following spring. And she is meeting Fern, the cat lady, for the first time for one of their walks. Speaking of the cat lady, here comes Fern pushing her cat stroller built for 2. The cat lady has a stroller built for 2, but she puts 3 cats in it. They take them out. They also have cat car seats. That wasn't in there. Fern always exudes an air of joy and enthusiasm, contagious to all those around her. I've been infected. I'm smiling as well. Let's face it, we are ecstatic to be able to get outside and begin our walking and talking regimen again. Certainly true friendship can endure the coldest of winters and blossom into something even more beautiful with the arrival of spring. As Fern stops the carriage, I jolt towards her, give her an enormous hug, and squeal, "Fern, we're outside again!" Fern shrieks, "Aggie, this is great!" We release our embrace. The chill of the winter is melted away as the warmth of our friendship is instantly rekindled. I take a moment to look down at the stroller, observing the 2 cats with their pink collars. Oh, Fern, it's girls' day out. Fern is still grinning ear to ear. Yes, I thought we'd return to our daily walks with all of the females in a united force. Well, except for Mom. Fern's smile diminishes. Mom and Pop are showing their age. This winter has been tough on them. It appears that their arthritis pain is increasing and their mobility is lessening. I have an appointment for them at the veterinarian later this week. It's rain. I'm going to see if I can get them something for their stiffness and pain. I instinctively reach for Fern's hand. I'm sorry, Fern. I know how much Mom and Pop mean to you. I'm here if you need anything. Fern raises her chin to look at me and smiles weakly. Thank you, Aggie. With hands still entwined, we both notice movement across the street. In concert, we turn our heads to the right, and time stands still. With the sun casting a golden hue, a magnificent sight comes into view. A striking man walking 2 dogs. His long salt and pepper hair, meticulously combed back, reveals an elegant touch that matches his well-groomed beard and mustache. Each step he takes is deliberate and graceful, almost as if he's waltzing with the dogs ahead of him. The 2 dogs are large in stature with long manes. They gracefully stride along the pavement. Their luxurious coats cascade down their slender bodies, swaying with every movement, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. I pivot my attention back to the human. With an air of confidence, he effortlessly glides the dogs, their leashes swaying, creating an elegant dance. Time seems to slow down as his luscious locks bounce in synchronization with the rhythm of his strides. As he turns, the tips of his hair gently brush his shoulder, accentuating his rugged yet defined appearance. In a friendly gesture, he gracefully raises his hand. One cannot help but be drawn to his bicep, adorned with a bold, barbed wire tattoo that wraps around and around and around his large bicep. Fern and I reciprocate in a synchronized lifting of our arms. Slowly up, slowly down. My eyes focus on his attire. He is wearing gray sweatpants that cling in all the right places, with the elastic bottom of his pants pulled up over his calves, exposing an additional tattoo on his lower left leg, giving him yet another touch of magnetism. From this distance, I'm unable to identify the actual identity of the marking. He has passed us. Slow motion video forward. Fern and I remain in our statue-like posture, hands still entwined. I hear Fern's voice. Meow. I turn my head to face Fern, my eyes blinking wildly. Did you just see a man and two dogs walk by in slow motion? Fern's eyes are wide with excitement. She seems out of breath. She says, I did. We finally release our hands, realizing that time has passed and the two cats in Fern's stroller, who never allow us to stand still, have also been frozen. Neither one has been troubled by our deadlock. Fern instinctively begins to push the stroller, and I follow her lead. Fern is first to speak. Was that a new neighbor? If so, I am in for a welcoming party. Met the new neighbor, the dog walker. But his real name is Seamus O'Leary. And I challenged myself to write with an Irish accent to make it more sexy. So Richard Gere may have a little bit
Competition.
Lastly, I give my commercial. My website, I have 2 blogs, a writer's blog for writers, and this I give it's every other Monday, and I give you hints on writing. I had a fun one on dangling modifiers. This past week was how to find inspiration to write, how to create characters, different things like that. I also have a blog called A Shot in the Arm. I say it's better than a shot of B12. It's a motivational blog for women to keep you positive, to empower you. My most famous blog was How to Deal with Toxic People. How could that have been the most popular? So you can sign up for those. And then I also have a waiting list for the sequel. I send out just a little note, maybe once every 2 months, letting you know where I am and introducing you to some of the characters. The character I introduced to you earlier, the woman I interviewed, Sarah, her character is called Chatty Cathy. So you've met Chatty Cathy and the dog walker to add to the new neighborhood along with some others. So please feel free to come up, sign your name and email, and get the blogs into your inbox. Sometimes they go to spam the first week, so check your spam and then drag them into your inbox, and then they should go back to your inbox. And that is my
Angie, if you brought a book with you, she'll sign it. If you haven't read the book and you want to purchase a copy, or if you want to buy a copy for a friend, Angie has brought some copies with us. And then if you want to get the insider information that she said she would only share one-on-one, come up and speak. But how about another round of applause for Angie? And you could add a character to your book, the Cookie Lady. We also call her Baker Extraordinaire, Mary Lou Detweiler, who unfortunately had a little trip of a fall and could not be with us. But delicious cookies, and we don't want to take leftovers home. So please help yourself and enjoy, stay and mingle a little bit, come up and talk to Angie.